So, hello and welcome to the 1% podcast. Today we have the man, the myth, the legend that is Mr. Rupert Leyland on. Now, Rupert's been a client working with me for the last 4 or 5 months. By my account, in an awesome position, done some great work on himself. And as we sit today, I would say truly thriving in a really great spot. But I want you to hear from the horse's mouth. It's very easy for me to say that. But I think what's important is Rupert's story and journey is really powerful to listen to, because I think it'll speak to and resonate with lots of guys out there who are listening to this, who the usual story, it's all great on paper, life great, lovely missus, family, but maybe not feeling quite right, and wanting to do something about it. And Rupert's very much taken action and done that. And it's been amazing to see his journey, but I want him to talk about it, and I want you guys to hear from the horse's mouth, because it's always powerful. So on that note, Rupert, before we kick off and jump off, do you want to just introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do, a little bit about you?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Rupert Leyland, and I work within Gallagher's Benefit Services business, working predominantly in the culture change practice. Been there about 5 years, but apart from the work side, more importantly, I'm a happily married man, married to Annie, have done for the last nearly 30 years. Been married since 1996, and have a lovely little boy, Kyle, and a dog who's called Georgia.
Nice. So a busy man by all accounts, lots going on, right?
Loads going on, more than ever, but it's all about how you face up to it, which is what we'll be talking about in this. And by the way, you call me man, myth, legend. Takes one to know one, Luke Doran.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm blushing for anyone who's listening. Right. Well, on that note, let's jump off. And I think a great place to kick off would be when we first spoke. Rewind 4 or 5 months into the past. I know. I think you'd seen a colleague of yours, would have been Alistair, who I've also worked with. Maybe one of his posts. I think we did a podcast, and then off the back of that, I think you watched a bit of my stuff and then decided to reach out for a conversation. What was going on with you back then that made you think, hold up a second, that resonates, and I want to maybe have a chat with somebody like me about doing some work?
You're right, I did. It was Alistair Dornan, who's our Chief Revenue Officer, a legend in his own right, and definitely someone who, from the outside, I saw just being absolutely smashing it, and it was his honesty and sort of vulnerability actually that he showed on with you on the podcast that made me think, okay, so it's not just me that's feeling a bit sort of, like got some bad habits. I want to change it. And so it was a real moment of, because as men so often we're just supposed to keep on keeping on, aren't we? Just keep on, keep going and be resilient against all odds. And in truth, I was playing that game and presumably fairly convincing most of the time, but in my heart of hearts, didn't really feel fully on top of it all, slightly overwhelmed in parts, just a lot going on, both at work and at home. And, as I said, key in a post I did a few months ago, key indicators all looking good, good job, happy family, but not really present in any of it, just sort of slightly skimming around the edges. And as part of that sort of sense of slight overwhelm, just feeling, I think it's going to be all right. I'll just keep on running, and then I'll worry about all my own personal stuff later. It's that thing we talk about, oxygen mask, putting the oxygen mask on yourself first. And I wasn't doing that, just wasn't doing that at all.
And I think that's a very common narrative with, the guys I speak to, but also, I guess, guys in the modern world with what we have going on, because you've got a busy, hectic job, you've got a family to support, there's all the other things that come around that, and the general stresses of life and everything else that's going on. And so, and it comes from a well-intentioned place, like you go down the pecking order. And so because you go down the pecking order, you're not taking care of yourself on a multitude of levels, but then that's got like the law of diminishing returns, because if that happens on a consistent long-term basis, you start to sort of slowly drive yourself into the floor. And that's where it's like, this isn't like some 30,000 foot view, like plane crashing from the top. It's just a slow dive, and you go, hold up a second, I don't feel quite right. And I think, looping back to what you said about Alistair, I think that's what's really powerful about hearing someone like Alistair, because on the face of it, CRO of a massive business, incredibly confident guy when you speak to him, looks sharp, switched on. But he was struggling a bit, and he found some of this stuff difficult. You go, oh, well, if he's struggling or finding some stuff hard, well, that gives license for me to it be okay that I am. Now the next step, I think, is like, well, what the fuck do we go and do about that? Because, but it's acknowledging that, you know, if something doesn't feel quite right, something isn't quite right. But then sometimes you don't quite know exactly what it is. You can't quite put your finger on it. But the reality is, if you're happy and content, you won't be having a conversation or even thinking that in the first place. Does that make sense?
It's exactly that. Spot on. And I think that's right. And you kid yourself, don't you, that you just keep on keeping on. But actually, there's a chance at some point, if you talk about, the 1%, the name of your business, it's like we're looking to do things 1% better every day, or just do something to a 1% degree. And actually that can go in the wrong direction as well. 1% worse every day means you end up potentially crashing and burning, doesn't it? I'm not interested in that.
Yeah, and I think that's that slow slide, and that's where I think it can almost be more insidious. Where, and to be fair, I speak to some guys where things are, quote unquote on fire. There's a few areas where bloody hell, I'm maybe really unhealthy or absolutely stressed and burnt out at work, and it's quite obvious. But a lot of the time, it's not quite as extreme as that. It's this sort of bubbling malaise of not quite right and discontent, and it's almost not quite bad enough to maybe do anything about it, but you realize it isn't. And I think that's almost like the worst trap. It's this sort of horrible sort of like middle ground, whereas actually like, well, I don't want to just be coasting through and clinging on. I want to be thriving and best foot forward, I think. I mean, I'm saying that's what you want. I assume that's what most people would like in life.
That's good.
And then there's a double dichotomy of, well, I've got it all, but I don't feel happy. And that pisses you off as well, because you're like annoyed at yourself that you're not enjoying the life that you said that you wanted, right? And so it becomes this sort of milieu of just not really feeling that great, and that I'm keeping doing the same stuff and I'm not feeling any better. But maybe it'll get better next week somehow,
Exactly. And I think I thought I had the answer to it, that it would be, if I did a bit more exercise, everything would be all right. Or if I ate better, it would be all right. But it was always putting it off and saying, I'll do that another day. That'll happen when. And actually, when never comes, does it? Unless you just take accountability. And I think that's been a big thing for me, is making little changes, marginal gains, marginal changes across the way in terms of, diet, nutrition, exercise, mindset, the lens you choose to see things through, and combined all those things have made a massive difference in terms of how I'm facing into the challenges that are still there. Lots of challenges, lots going on. But it's all about how you face up to it, isn't it?
Yeah. And that segues quite nicely onto what I wanted to talk about, really, which was, well, that's where you were, right? And as we sit today, I think recognizing that life is busy, it is hectic. There are still stuff going on. Like materially, with what we've done together, have we changed anything external? No. But it's what you're saying there is it's accountability to yourself, looking at your part in it and what you can do. Be that what goes in your mouth, be that how you move your body, be that how you interact with your wife or your son or at work, or you manage your stress or your alcohol intake. And that can sound quite insurmountable, but they're all little pieces. And if you just start to put those little pieces and line them up in the right way, I really believe then as an emergent property, you start to feel better and more present within your life. And so that's where you can have the same day and week. And actually, in one lens, that was difficult, but I'm all right. The other lens, it's, oh shit, everyone's a bastard, right? But there's materially no difference. It's just your ability to deal with it in the lens that you're putting on the situation, right?
And it is exactly that. And it's, you said, didn't you, you're the problem and you're the solution. So it's all on you. It's all there's another great phrase you have, which is that, the only thing between you and the life that you want is the choices you make, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point, is that I was sort of just prioritizing other things rather than the choices that I knew would make a difference. And I'm by no means there. I mean, we're all a work in progress, aren't we? But I've made
100%. You need to be totally clear.
And I made some good progress, and I've lost a bit of weight, not as much as I want yet, but I'm work in progress, and eating better, feeling better, sleeping better, and more importantly, just able to face up to some of the challenges that I've faced. But I think the other thing about this program that's been really great is the accountability to myself, of course, but also accountability to the other guys on the group. And there aren't many forums where blokes can actually be really real with each other. We do generalizations going on here, I know, but blokes generally just sort of say, yeah, I'm all right, mate, you're all right, snap them back and crack on. So, and actually in this group, it's been a really healthy mix of being honest, open, sometimes vulnerable with each other, and then supported by you, saying, well, what we can do about it. There's a client we work with who I love. Their phrase is, what we can do Monday. And you're like, not what we can do Monday, what we can do today. Like, what
Today.
we do today. But you know what I mean? So, and I think that's the point. It's a forum to be really real. The lights which I've not come across before, and it's very refreshing and inspiring. So you're accountable to yourself, you're accountable to the other guys in the group, but actually they've got your back, you've got the support, and shared experiences that come through on the chat that we have mean that together we're just bolstering each other. I found it quite moving and actually really helpful for me, but also knowing that, I'm not alone in sometimes finding some of the stuff that is coming our way is challenging, but also sharing practical top tips for getting through it and around it and dealing with it is, again, a real unexpected byproduct and joy, actually, of the program I've been on for a bit more than 3 or 4 months now. It's nearly about 8, I think. So, yeah.
8 months. Sorry, I should correct myself.
It's all right.
Yeah, there's a few things there to unpack. I mean, one of them, I'm going to be biased because it's my program, but I'm passionate about that group coaching aspect. But and some guys, I think, initially can be a bit reticent about that. It's a bit like, what am I going to get out of that? And what values that can add? My problem's unique and the special, and I'm not going to learn anything, and I don't want to just sit and listen to other people's problems. The trick that's missed there is, and it's quite hard to actually, quote unquote, I'm using inverted commas for anyone listening, get this until you actually experience it. But when you hear other people talking about their problems and how they work through them or not, or what's happened, it gives you a whole dose of perspective that you don't normally get. And it really helps like frame your thinking, and not in a, haha, look at them, they're struggling, or ooh, look at him showing off, or anywhere in between. It's actually really powerful because it puts a little mirror up for yourself as well. But then also, you hear someone sharing about maybe something they've struggled with, and you've maybe been struggling with something a bit, but you haven't said anything because, I don't want to, look weak, or whatever. And someone else is vulnerable. You go, oh, well, he said that and he's looking better. Maybe I can say this as well. Because there's a thing with guys, we're told we need to talk more, right? It's kind of bollocks, right? Because what does talking do? Talking's important. We need to share. But what men also need is action. Like, we want to fix problems. We want to solve. And so, yes, you want license to be able to get something out, and that's great. But the next bit is that, right, what are we going to do about that then? It might not be an instant fix, but as long as there's a little 1% path to change whatever it is that we are struggling with, that's empowering, because then you're no longer a victim to whatever's happened to you, and you're able to change it. And I think if you're in a group environment, seeing people doing that on a regular basis, I mean, it's empowering, right? And it's helpful. But it shows you that sharing and talking about an issue, being honest about something that's not worked, that is like the catalyst for growth and change. Like, we all want to do stuff and be great at it, but like, when that's happening, that's fine. But actually, where you really grow and improve is when something's quote unquote gone wrong. And to be frank, with us working together, Rupert, things have happened. We go, oh shit, this is happening, or what about this? And how do I challenge this? Well, in the interrogation and getting to the root of what's happened there, that's where you can really truly change and make a difference, right? Feels uncomfortable because we have to park our ego. You have to communicate something where you feel like you haven't maybe, showered yourself in glory or done what you wanted to do. And I'm talking to myself here as well, by the way. Sure. I'm not a saint. But then in doing that, you can then recognize your part in it, what you need to do to change and move forward. And that's where you really get that sort of proper growth, because you can look at yourself objectively and make a decision to move forward. Can you speak to that? Does that make sense?
Totally. And there's also been moments when I've been saying, well, it's this and that. And you say, well, actually, hang on a minute. Because again, typically we put ourselves in places, don't we, very often, where we don't get challenged. And so you say, well, hang on a minute. Could it actually be you're saying this, but it's actually that? And it's like, I never thought of it that way. So it's being able to see, having you as a support, as a coach, to see perhaps there's another way of seeing the same thing. If you turn the beach ball around, it's like, it looks different from that side compared to that side. It's the same beach ball, but actually, how can you front into it or face into it differently going forward? And sometimes I've said, no, that's not right. Or sometimes I said, yeah, thanks, that's quite helpful, I'll think about it. And sometimes I said, yes, spot on, I'm kidding myself. But having that, a friendly, I know you said you're not here to be our friend, but it's like, to have somebody to tactfully challenge, or just hold you to account. And that's what you've done so brilliantly, when I've just been, in retrospect, kidding myself about certain things. And so you do need that, and it's great to have it. It's been great to have it.
Yeah. I mean, the way I like to think about coaching is it's like from that accountability perspective, because I think a lot of people, when you think about accountability, they almost assume like drill sergeant shouting at someone, it's quite aggressive, right? But for me, I think it's more about putting up a mirror and showing someone something, and then within that, like, and then if you want to help someone take action, it's sometimes arm around the shoulder, sometimes foot up the arse, and it's a combination of both. And so that challenge, it's not me being a prick, it's me going, really? Is that serving you? Like, really? What about this? And you go, oh shit, yeah. And like, that's where it's like, I'm not there to make you feel nice. I want to help you. And sometimes in helping you, I have to point maybe something out that might be slightly affronting. But you can do that in a way that's not being a dickhead. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways to do that. And like, not better, do it better next time, I don't think helps anyone. Because if this thing hasn't happened, you go, well, why didn't it? Oh, this. Well, why did that happen? Well, this. Why did that happen? Well, that. Oh, well, perhaps when we get to the root of those 3 or 4 whys, do you reckon we could change that instead? And how you think about that? All right, yeah. But if we just said, "Dickhead, do it better," right at the top, we haven't got to that surface issue, right? And that's where you can get maybe superficial change, but not that more substantial change.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. This is about habit forming rather than just like, go to the gym for 3 weeks and then forget about it. This is about, habit forming and getting into regular routines, which ultimately, as you start to see the benefit of them, you wouldn't not do them. So drinking less, getting ready for the morning the night before, it seems obvious, but it's like, who does that? Putting your phone away from 8 o'clock at night, having a cold shower to help you feel just amazing first thing. These are just little things that I just hadn't even thought of doing. And the impact in terms of just being calm, but also being grateful. That's another thing. I mean, gratitude's a big part of this program. It's a big part of life. And just stopping for a minute and going, hang on a minute, whatever's bothering me, what can I be grateful for? Because there's tons. We're very fortunate, aren't we? I feel more fortunate than many. I'm, very grateful for all that I have. But ultimately, it's like stopping for a minute and acknowledging that has a disproportionate impact on how you go about your day. Added to by the fact that you did have a cold shower, you weren't tearing about shouting at everyone in the morning, saying, "I need this gal away from,"
Yeah.
all that. So they're just these little things that just have helped, which have become now habits, which once we part company one day, I'm not going to stop doing them because it's become part of how I operate and the impact of. So why do I want that? Because it's had an impact in terms of being calmer, being hopefully a nicer dad to our boy, hopefully nicer husband to my wife. I don't know, better colleague. Well, I don't know that these people will all be the judge of that, but it's that.
Yeah, but I think that's ultimately it, because something you said before, you're the problem, but you're also the solution. So if we look at life like that, so it's what's my part in this? If you start to do the things that help you feel better, look better, build your self-esteem, allow you to interact more calmly, more objectively, as a byproduct, you are going to show up as a quote unquote better person for
Totally.
your son, your wife, your colleagues, right? It's going to happen. You split test it. One version of you wakes up hungover, snoozes 5 times, racing around trying to get dressed, running a bit late, on your phone because you've just seen an email that you're stressed about work, so you're shouting at your missus and your son because he's distracting you. Then you storm out the door, just about get the train, maybe you miss it, put a shirt on that doesn't fit because you're feeling a bit uncomfortable, storm through the office door. Version A, right? Then you got version B who got up on time, did some exercise before everyone was up, had a cold shower, made his missus a cup of tea, present with his son, doing some time with him, not on his phone with work, look in the mirror feeling proud because he's feeling nice and fit, gets to the office on time because he's walked there maybe because he wants to get some steps in, walk through the door. Which version is going to perform better? And it sounds completely fucking obvious when we point it out, right? But for some reason, I don't know why we saw almost, it's kind of, we're blind to that. And so you go, well, which version do you want and which version is going to be better at work? Well, version B, obviously, of course they are. But sometimes we don't see those dots and we don't join those, or we don't see that. And so, and that's where, like, you take the exact same week, right? And then it's busy and stressful with work, and maybe you have some stuff with your son's happened, and maybe you miss, all that. Exact same week. You got version A and version B, right? How are they going to cope? Like, version B is going to cope better, isn't he? Like, doesn't mean the week hasn't been stressful and difficult, but he's in a better place to deal with the shit that happens. And so that's where you can get that, I think, beautiful thing where, oh, that was a fucking hard week. Well, I'm all right. Like, which I think that's sort of what we all want, because life isn't always going to be easy. We are going to have stresses, but if we're as best we can taking care of ourselves as best we can, then we're better able to deal with the stress when it hits. And then when life's great, you can love it. But life isn't always great, you know?
No, it's that. And then there's another thing too about what you're saying there, which is that all those things, version B is definitely the better one, but we all slip, don't we, back into bad
100%.
habits. And I've had a couple of experiences over the last few months when I haven't been as virtuous as I'm sounding on this podcast about being, doing this, doing that, and I have slipped. And you really, really notice the difference when you don't do some of these things that you've, these habits you've been encouraging us to take on. But as you say, every day you have a clean slate. And that's the thing too. It's that whole, well, I've done it now, so it's all over. I might as well just carry on being, hopeless and, but wait a minute, that's today. You're feeling a bit shocking today. Actually, tomorrow's a new day. Crack on. Let's go.
Yeah. And it's the ability to course correct. Because what you said there is exactly true. It's never going to be all unicorns and rainbows constantly. And even if we know what we need to do, sometimes life can test you to such a degree that things fall over a little bit. That is life. But once you've done the work to understand yourself and you know what those basics are, and you've got that, that toolkit of how to operate, you can't unlearn that. And so at some point you go, well, time. Yep. I'm feeling a bit shit. I know what's happened. Let's not wallow in this any longer. Right. What we do? And then you go again. And that's where you get the forward momentum. Things are always going to knock us off course. But it's, again, the ability to be able to course correct for ourselves. Right now, you've been in a coaching process, which helps with that. But equally, we've had calls where we've jumped on and you've gone, yeah, well, I went a bit pear-shaped last week, but then I just had a word with myself. I did this, and this back on it without any interaction with me. And I think, for me, that's the beauty, and that's what sustainability, long term, all these words that are thrown out, I think, when people want to do work on themselves, because but it's that ability to be able to do that yourself, right? And also recognizing that we're fallible and things will go wrong sometimes, because that's life.
And then you see the impact it's having in terms of relationships at home, particularly because a lot of people know I've got a lovely adoptive kid who's got quite complex special needs, and that's been a massive challenge for us as a me and my wife, and it's been a journey, and it's great overall. It's brilliant. But actually, I was still getting a bit shouty with him and a bit frustrated and not proud of the experience he had before. When I wouldn't have that perspective, part of the overwhelm was linked to that. And actually, the way we're fronting into him, we're facing into him and working with him now, he's noticed a difference, and we're a lot happier. Just all that stuff, catching him doing things right, being really free with praise, stuff I know you need to do. It's part of what my job is. It's work I do at, I work with companies to help make happen. But it's like, what's that? Cobbler's shoes. It's easier, you do, everyone else gets it, but at home they don't get it. And so it's like, it's been a big byproduct of unexpected byproducts of this work we've done together. Is just a bit more harmony at home, and he's responded really well to it. And actually, I dare say my missus has started to take on some of the approaches that I've been bringing to the table. So it sort of rubs off on each other, and that's again another lovely byproduct of all that we've been doing together.
Well, that's, the concept, practicing what you preach and leading by example. And I think we had some chats about maybe, his son was on his phone a bit and that was annoying you. And I was like, well, how are you on your phone? He went, yeah, I'm on it quite a lot. I was like, well,
there you go.
How's about you show him how to do it, and then you can do that, because it's a bit, not just you, all of us, it's a bit hypocritical. You shouldn't be on your phone. It's bad. Yeah, but it works. It's not social media, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Do
as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, and I think that's one small example, but I think, and there's a multitude of things like that where you're then showing up better and you're making choices and being objective around him, and it's just rubbed off in a really, really positive way, but it's predicated on your behavior, right? You can say whatever you want, right? But and I think that then rubs off on him, and then you and your wife. And so you're not there going home preaching about all this great stuff you're doing. It's about your behavior and what you're doing. And I think then people in the right way want to come along in your wake with that. And again, it creates a great environment, because again, home itself hasn't changed. It's you, your energy, how you're showing up and how you're dealing with the situations that has. And then that has such a positive knock-on effect, right?
It does, and it has. And it's, like I said, we're not there yet. We have moments, you know,
Of course we all do.
yeah, exactly. And you forget these things that you think, but the point is, if you've got a kind of plumb line that you're operating to, then you know, if you've gone either side of that, you know what you need to do, just bring it back to center. And it's, like you said, course correct. It's that. But this gives you the opportunity to do that. You know what good looks like, and then go and live according to that, show up according to that. And if you don't get it right, then don't beat yourself up. You had a brilliant phrase about, you know, sometimes you get people operate on the basis of, well, I had a puncture. So what do? You get out of the car and say, well, I might as well puncture the other slash the other 3 tires as well. It's like, no, that's the wrong
Yeah,
answer. It's the,
yeah,
had a puncture, what you do about it, sort it out.
yeah. Get the puncture bag out, or if that's not working, get the spare tire out. Like, you know, there's a way for us to move forward.
Exactly. But I do think there's a big, oh, sorry, go on.
No, you carry on. You
I was
go.
going to say there's a big thing about consistency and being disciplined about this stuff, because it's just easy to let stuff slip. I mean, you know, we've had, you know, one of the trickiest thing for me has been being really determined and focused on the exercise side, you know, so eating less and better, easy, being thankful, the mindset, mindset and ownership bit, that comes to me quite naturally. But the actual getting off my arse and doing exercise on a regular basis, you know, despite stuff that comes your way, you've got a deadline for work, you break a couple of ribs as I have, you know, whatever it is, it's like, you know, if you're disciplined about it, you know, it's all very well saying, I want to do it, you know, I'm motivated to do it. It's like, well, actually, you know, talk's cheap. And you just say, just do the thing. Stop talking about doing the thing or planning, writing down your plan to do the thing or diarizing, doing the thing. Just do it. Get on with it. But then having done that, it's about consistency. And that's really hard in a busy modern economy that we're in, world we're in. But I do think that's a big thing that working with you, you know, it's always in the back of my mind. Not you going, rah, 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 but actually, you know, Luke would say, do this. It's like, so I need to get on with it. Otherwise, you know, I'm just playing at this.
And one thing within that, I did a podcast on this last week, actually, like a solo one. It was about, in fact, it's out this week, but about, you know, why you can't build habits. And part of that, I think, what I speak to is the need to lower the bar, and like not in a belittling way to yourself, but going, well, I can't do that. It's impossible. So then the next one, well, what can you do? And when you ask that, there's a whole world of opportunity there. And so being able to play that game and to go, well, I haven't got time to exercise. Come on, Rupert, could you do one push-up when you get out of bed? Of course I can, Luke. Well, therefore you can exercise. Now, I use that example all the time, and it seems quite trite, but it really highlights, well, you can exercise. What you can't do is what you think you need to do, which is maybe an hour and a half in the gym tonight after blah, blah, blah. What, you can't do that. Fine, I agree, you can't. What can you do? And so you flip that and go, well, there's lots of stuff we can do, and what does that look like? And so I think that then is, if we have that mindset, that's what allows the discipline. The discipline isn't trying to grind out an hour and a half you think you need to do in the evening, because it's basically not going to happen. Or it's you'll brute force it for a bit and then it'll fall over. The discipline is going, well, what is it I can do within that? And then I guess, to be fair, you need to know what those things are, right? And sometimes that's where we stop, and I've got a program around that. But like ultimately, if we have that mantra, then the habit that we want to build and the discipline is, okay, regular exercise, right? So that's the thing that we want. Well, how can we achieve that? Fucking million ways, right? And there's certain things that we want, but like, if we lower that bar and look at, well, there's a whole plethora or a suite of things we can do, depending on the, I guess, extremity of the circumstances I'm in. There's usually always something, right? And I think that's the game that we like, or I like to play for everyone, that you've definitely done. It's like, well, okay, my ribs cracked, fucking shit, really unpleasant, uncomfortable. There's a load of stuff you can't do anymore. Can you at least go out for a walk? Yeah, I can. Right, there we go. That's good enough. So then we can. You see what I mean? It's playing that sort of game with yourself. But if we do that around one area, say just exercise, that same approach can be at work, can be a relationship, can be anywhere, you know, and it's ultimately a more empowered place to behave, I think.
It totally is. And yeah, it's just that thing, you know, your program says do this number of press ups, this number of burpees, this number of, it's like, oh my God, I can't do that. You say, well, what can you do? Can you do 3 press ups? Can you do press up again, pushing against the wall? What can you do? And just doing something is better than nothing. And I think that's, again, that's a change. It's like, so if you do that, you know, while the kettle's boiling, or in between calls, or or whatever it is. As I say, I've always
Exactly.
been slightly intimidated by the sort of gym bunny, the whole, all that stuff. I was like, well, that's not me. It's just not the way I'm set up. I mean, I do play tennis, as you know, walk the dog a lot. Been doing 13,000 steps a week the last few weeks, despite the rib. Biking, staying away from rugby because that's what caused the rib break. But the point is, it's like you could do something always as long as you're keeping moving. Because to your point, if you're not doing it now, then the impact that's going to have when you're older. And I had missed this when we first started working together. It's like if you don't build up some strength now, then God help you when you're in your 70s, 80s, 90s.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's not going to magically get better. Like that's going to decline, right? And so it's you want to be setting the foundations now or earlier, but you can't do it earlier. So it's now. Uh, for that, but what it will do in the now is make you feel good, happy, content, and look decent as well, right? Which is all the things we want.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess the northern phrase of that is, there's something's better than nothing. Oats better than no, is what we would say. So
Nice.
something's better than nothing.
Nice.
So I don't want to cannibalize too much of your time, Rupert, because I know you're a busy man. Before we get off, what would you say is maybe the key takeaway then? And it's quite a big question. This from the last 8 or so months, you doing all this work as you sit today in a good spot. What's been your, I guess, key takeaway from the whole process? Or another way to look at this is if someone's sitting and listening, maybe they're in a place that you were in a few months back. What would you say to someone like that in terms of what we're discussing today?
I think it's just about commitment. Just commit to doing something, whether you phone Luke and join this program or you just decide to do something on your own. It comes back to that whole thing about, you are the problem and the solution. The solution doesn't sit in reading some brilliant book about being a better person, being a better man, being a better husband, colleague, whatever, or watching podcasts about it. It's about actually committing to doing something and doing it doing it now and then doing it consistently, because there's no point waiting until you retire or till the boat comes in or whatever. It's actually being accountable to yourself, your current self and your future self as well, by just doing it, just and begin it now.
Yeah. Well, I would 100% agree with what you just said there, Rupert. It's the JFDI, just fucking do it, right? And just to cap it off, I do believe that's true. It's action, right? Like I said earlier when we were talking, it's good to talk, it's good to think, it's good to have plans, but at some point the rubber has to hit the road, and you actually have to fucking do something. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. And so, but that action doesn't have to be change your entire life and go inside out and back to front. It can be something little, but then you've started, and then we're off to the races, right? So,
spot on. And Luke, thank you for the last few months. And the difference you made to me, but not just to me, to all the blokes on this group that are part of the 1% community that you've built. So it's good on you. At some point you'll get an OBE, but in the meantime you get an OGE, which is an Order of the Good Egg, because that's what you are.
Thank you very much. Well, no, I really appreciate that, Rupert, and it means a lot because hopefully it comes across. I'm passionate about what I do and I love what I do. And it's great to hear feedback like that. And also it's great to see the transformations and changes that you've gone through as well. And so right back at you, you should be really proud of what you achieved. And it's been great working with you. So thank you. On that note, that is us done. Rupert, as I said, it's been a pleasure. In the meantime, if anyone is listening and they're interested in talking to me about how I can help in the programs and the process, drop me a note in the comments or find me a DM and we can have a chat. Otherwise, have a fantastic week and I'll see you next week. Cheers, gents.